Henrik Ibsen's A Doll's House is often hailed as one of the most revolutionary works in modern drama, challenging the social and moral conventions of the late 19th century. While much critical attention is rightly given to Nora Helmer's awakening and act of self-liberation, her husband Torvald Helmer is equally crucial to the play's dramatic and thematic structure. As the central male figure and patriarch of the household, Torvald represents the social, moral, and psychological forces that define and confine the protagonist. His character serves not only as Nora's antagonist but also as the embodiment of patriarchal authority, bourgeois respectability, and moral superficiality. Role in the narrative. Torvald Helmer is Nora's husband, a recently promoted bank manager who embodies middle-class respectability and moral rigidity. His role in the narrative is pivotal. He functions as the foil to Nora's evolving consciousness and as the representative of the social structures from which she seeks to escape. On the surface, he is the loving husband and responsible provider, whose primary concern is the well-being and honor of his family. Yet as the play progresses, Torvald's behavior reveals that his affection for Nora is grounded not in equality or genuine intimacy, but in paternalism and control. His use of diminutives, such as Little Skylark and My Little Squirrel, is not endearing affection but linguistic diminishment, reducing Nora to a charming plaything rather than an autonomous partner. Torvald's narrative function intensifies in the final act, where his true nature is revealed. When he discovers Nora's secret loan and forgery, his immediate reaction is not gratitude for her sacrifice or empathy for her fear, but outrage at the potential damage to his own reputation. His response: "Now you have destroyed all my happiness. You have ruined my whole future," demonstrates that his concern lies entirely with social appearance and self-image. Only after Krogstad returns the bond and the threat of scandal vanishes does Torvald attempt to forgive Nora, calling her doubly dear because she has become his helpless little thing. His final confrontation with her sets the stage for the play's radical ending, Nora's departure, and the famous door slam heard around the world. Symbolic significance. Torvald Helmer stands as a personification of patriarchal ideology and bourgeois morality. He represents the Victorian husband, the so-called master of the house, whose authority rests on economic control, moral superiority, and gendered double standards. His belief that a wife's primary duty is to her husband and children reflects this separate spheres ideology of the time, which confined women to the domestic realm and denied them intellectual and financial independence. The title A Doll's House encapsulates the symbolism surrounding Torvald's role. If Nora is the doll, then Torvald is the doll's owner, the one who arranges, supervises, and displays her as a decorative element in his idealized household. He treats marriage as a performance of social virtue rather than a union of equals. His obsession with appearances, seen in his horror at the prospect of scandal, reveals his inner emptiness. For Torvald, the value of morality lies not in ethical conviction, but in maintaining a reputation. His rigid adherence to rules and propriety masks a deep fear of losing control, both socially and domestically. Furthermore, Torvald symbolizes the institutionalization of gender roles and the moral hypocrisy that sustains them. He condemns Krogstad for moral corruption while failing to recognize his own moral blindness. He insists that no man would sacrifice his honor for the one he loves, to which Nora replies, "It is a thing hundreds of thousands of women have done." This exchange crystallizes Ibsen's critique of male self-righteousness and exposes Torvald as the symbol of a system that privileges abstract honor over human compassion. Broader implications. Torvald's character extends beyond the confines of domestic drama to critique the broader social and ideological structures of Ibsen's time, and by extension of modern society. He embodies the tension between individual freedom and social conformity. His life is governed by what people will say, a phrase that captures the tyranny of public opinion in bourgeois culture. Through Torvald, Ibsen exposes how moral conventions, far from protecting integrity, actually suppress genuine ethical feeling. Moreover, Torvald's attitudes toward gender reflect the broader patriarchal discourse that reduced women to dependence. His assumption that Nora is incapable of understanding serious matters reflects the cultural belief that women are inherently emotional and irrational. By dramatizing this belief through Torvald's condescension, Ibsen not only criticizes gender inequality but also invites audiences to question the foundations of marriage and morality themselves. In a broader modernist context, Torvald represents the crumbling edifice of 19th-century certainties. His downfall parallels the collapse of traditional authority, whether paternal, religious, or moral, that characterized the transition to modernity. When Nora walks out, she not only rejects her husband but also symbolically dismantles the ideology he stands for. Torvald's bewildered reaction, his disbelief that Nora could leave, embodies the crisis of a world where old hierarchies no longer command obedience. Conclusion. In A Doll's House, Torvald Helmer is more than a mere antagonist. He is the embodiment of a social order whose collapse defines the modern age. His role in the narrative provides the structural and psychological counterpoint to Nora's awakening. Symbolically, he represents patriarchal control, moral hypocrisy, and the fragility of male authority. Psychologically, he is a man trapped by his own illusions, unable to love because he confuses affection with possession. In the broader thematic sense, Torvald's downfall signals Ibsen's revolutionary challenge to the moral and gender ideologies of his time. When Nora closes the door on him, she is not only leaving a husband, she is rejecting an entire worldview. Torvald's bewildered silence at the end encapsulates the death of the old order, a moment when the doll's house of bourgeois respectability collapses under the weight of its own falsehoods. In this sense, Torvald Helmer stands as one of modern drama's most significant figures. A man who, in his blindness and conformity, becomes the perfect symbol of a society on the brink of transformation.